First reports of Gilbert's impact on Jamaica are coming in. 500,000 homeless and many dead. Gilbert is potentially the most destructive hurricane in over a decade. Early evening on September 12th, as Gilbert moves off Jamaica, a hurricane warning is put up for the Yucatan Peninsula, western Cuba, and the Cayman Islands. The forecasters are worried that as the storm nears the Caymans, each communication could be the last.
Have nearly completed preparations for a major hurricane, for a dangerous hurricane, we got to motivate the people to take those actions. Okay.
How about for dangerous hurricane conditions?
For severe hurricane conditions.
In order to try and get this message to the Caymans, we have telephone contact, so we're going to telephone it down to the point down there. We also have cams here in the office. We'll give it to them immediately, and hopefully we can get this information to the islands, to the Caymans.
They soon learn that phone lines to the Caymans have been cut off by the heavy weather, so the bulletin will have to be sent by ham radio. Gilbert is now a Category 4, with winds at least 130 miles an hour. Few hurricanes ever get this strong.
Do you have a contact in the Caymans?
Probably. I'll see what I can do.
We need you to get it because we have no other way of contacting them at this point through Jamaica. Jamaica can't contact them anymore.
Complete preparations for severe hurricane conditions.
This computer simulation shows what Gilbert looked like before it hit Jamaica. Its eye measured 25 miles across, typical of most hurricanes. But its violent mood was only beginning to emerge. Past Jamaica a day later, the eye has shrunk to 10 miles across, a sign that the storm has sharply intensified. Gilbert is now a Category 5, as strong as hurricanes get, with winds over 155 miles an hour. Heading right for the eye of the storm is NOAA's reconnaissance plane, now within 100 miles of its target. Its mission: pinpoint the exact center to help forecasters determine if it's moving straight ahead toward Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula or beginning to turn north toward Galveston or New Orleans. Probes and sensors mounted on the outside of the plane will record air pressure, humidity, temperature, and wind speeds, while radar shows wind and rain patterns. This information will be critical to predicting the height of the storm surge and assessing potential wind damage when Gilbert finally hits land. To get the most complete information, the plane normally flies into the storm at 5,000 feet above the sea surface, where the winds can be fierce.
Yeah, the only hard convection is right in the eye wall.
Yeah,
that's just like Alan was.
We're looking awful high that far away.
That's true, yeah.
But it looks a lot like Alan on the 8th.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And it was a piece of cake at 5.
But Hugh Willoughby, lead scientist, and flight meteorologist Jeff Masters are concerned that today it might just be too dangerous. Should they chance 5,000 feet to get the best data, or climb up to 10 for safety?
I don't know, if we're all strapped in and we're ready for it, don't have any altitude excursions, which I don't think we will.
We go at 5,000 feet. We should miss that heavy cell there. Yeah, it might be big enough to orbit if we had to. We could climb to 10,000 feet orbiting in the eye if we did get a bad pass at 5,000.
Yeah. But like I say, Alan was just like that. We spent the whole day at 5 with one good bump.
It should be a pussycat.
Huh.
Looks like the worst convection is on the northwest or the north side of the eye wall.
No plane has gone down in an Atlantic hurricane since 1955, but enough close calls have taught the crew to be cautious.
Sometimes it's not always pleasant, but it's always interesting. Almost always interesting. Nelson and I, the first storm we flew together, Edith, in a DC-6, and it just knocked us on our cams. It just upset us wildly, and we weren't at all sure what hit us. The airplane was physically upset. We hit some kind of extraordinary turbulence that just threw us temporarily out of control. And I wasn't sure for a seemed like an eternity. I wasn't sure just which way was up and balanced flight. And Nelson and I thought maybe we were making a mistake in this whole thing. Maybe we were, but here we are.
David?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to go in at 10,000 feet.
At 10, huh?
Yeah, we're playing it safe.
It looks impressive anyway. We have about 15 miles to the beginning of the wall here.
So track 180.
Well, the eye is very small, almost too small to maneuver an airplane in. We can go straight across it, but we don't want to turn a lot inside the eye. It's only 8 miles across, and all around it are very intense thunderstorm updrafts. And you don't see many like this.
Moments from entering the eye wall, the pilot makes important last-minute corrections in order to hit the center of the storm.
Yeah, this will be our 18Z fix, so we want to steer until we find 0 winds.
So let's set condition 1.
Yeah, we got 100 knots of wind now.
Yeah, I thought it might drop off, but it hasn't.
Not yet.
If it hasn't by now, it probably won't.
No. We may see some 200 knot gusts here. 25 knot updraft.
Now in the eye wall, turbulence begins to rock the plane. Here are the hurricane's heaviest rains and strongest winds.
Let's keep tracking those winds.
Okay, we're just coming into the edge now.
The eye is as clear and as small as any this crew has seen. It is a narrow cylinder 12 miles high and perfectly clear all the way down to the sea.
Okay, do a right bank 20-degree roll angle. Let's hold it for about 10 seconds here.
The crew looks down on a raging sea and waves 50 feet high.
James, look at that water out there.
By looking at the direction in which the wind is driving the waves, the crew searches for a point where the water is still, marking the exact center of the hurricane.
You guys see a center down below there? I think we're just about directly over. No, okay, I'll mark it.
Looks good, looks good. Think we got the center.
As the plane passes through the center, its instruments record air pressure readings lower than ever before measured from an aircraft in the Atlantic.
Yeah, we had just set a new record for an aircraft surface pressure, 894 millibars.
These are extremely rare conditions. This is the sort of thing that you'd see in the 1935 Labor Day storm or in Hurricane Camille. You get destruction like a tornado over a swath 40 miles wide, perhaps. Very, very unusual over the tropical oceans.
On the south side, highest winds are 129 knots. On the north side, 167 knots.
Even as the airplane heads out the other side of the eye, wind and air pressure data arrive via satellite at the National Hurricane Center.
The only hurricanes that were of this class, we use a scale of 1 to 5, and this is a 5. The only hurricanes of this class were Hurricane Camille in 1969, Hurricane Allen in 1980 while it was over the water, not at the time it made landfall, and the 1935 hurricane that went into the Florida Keys.
The forecasters here pore over the numbers, fascinated by this astonishing display of nature's power.
About 40, it looks like. 40 miles wide. Outside of that, you've got 80 knots, maybe 100 miles per hour. That's the same kind of winds that are in the average tornado.
But they are also concerned that these figures, based on measurements taken at 10,000 feet, may not accurately reflect conditions at the sea surface. As the plane heads back for another penetration into the eye, the sense among crew members is that the storm is so strong, the readings have to be right.
They're questioning our pressure because we are extrapolating a surface pressure from 10,000 feet, from 2 miles high. So we're getting messages back. The Hurricane Center cannot believe that we are getting such a strong pressure in the eye, but we believe it.
Over the course of the day, the eye shrinks by over a mile in diameter, evidence of further intensification.
It's really smaller, if anything, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's down to 6 or 7 miles across.
Well, it's pretty small.
As the eye shrinks, the air pressure continues to drop, and the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm.
Anything spectacular on the pressure that time?
Lowest I saw was 882.
Later on, readings in this range were confirmed by another NOAA plane and accepted as the all-time record low for the Atlantic.
Hurricanes don't stay like this very long. There are already indications that this storm, whether it hits the Yucatan Peninsula or not, will weaken in the next day or day and a half. What's happening is there's a ring of slightly stronger winds forming around the eye that we see on radar. And over the next day or so, this ring will contract and probably strangle the eye that we see now. Pressure may go down for the rest of this flight, or it may actually start up while we're here. But tonight or early tomorrow, the center will become much less organized, very probably.
The center does become less organized, but surprisingly, the storm does not weaken. Early the next morning, Gilbert hits the Yucatan Peninsula with winds of 170 miles an hour. It is the first Category 5 hurricane to hit land since Camille in 1969.
In a storm as intense as Gilbert, the effect of the environment is moved away from the center and towards the periphery of the storm. In this case, in this region surrounding the storm at about 100 miles out, as the plane was flying, we noticed an increase in the wind speed and the formation of a second ring, which within the next few hours evolved over the next 12 hours into another complete eye wall. That again, once it formed, it started to act just like the interior portion of the storm and started to slowly contract inward. And this contraction continued even as the storm approached the Yucatan. And by the time the storm reached Cozumel, the aircraft noted that the intensity of the wind field in the outer eye wall was almost as intense as it was in the inner eye wall, where the inner eye wall is running about 180 miles per hour. Out in the periphery on this secondary eye wall, which is about 50 miles away, the winds are up to 120 miles per hour. So that Cozumel actually got a double shot. They got the first outer eye wall, and then they got the inner eye wall together.
But Gilbert weakens as it crosses the Yucatan. Cut off from its fuel supply, the ocean, its winds drop to 97 miles an hour, Category 2. But over the Gulf, it's sure to strengthen. Looking at the larger weather picture, the high-pressure zone is still driving Gilbert west, but over Texas, an expected low is developing. So the Hurricane Center calls for Gilbert to veer slightly north toward the low and probably hit Brownsville, Texas. But the turn could be sharper, so a watch, then a warning are put up for an 800-mile stretch from Mexico up to Louisiana.
It's over here in the monitor beside me, anywhere probably the northern part of Mexico through the Texas area. There's a lot of uncertainty in exactly where this hurricane's going to go 2 days from now, maybe even as late as 3 days from now if it were to recurve and perhaps go up in the Louisiana area.